I wanted to bail at this point, and I hated it, and I hated that I had to finish it, but I wanted to finish it. Hey, it's Liberty, and today I'm going to be conducting a little experiment. So, Colleen Hoover is someone people have been talking about for a while now, all over social media. Her books have been everywhere. People seem to have very different opinions on her books and writing style. So I'm going to be reading a few of her books and giving my opinions on them and just seeing what I think. If you like this video, do give it a thumbs up. I make videos all about books, history, personality, etc. So do check those out and subscribe if you want to. But for now, straight into the video. I am going to say before I start, this is not spoiler free. I'm going to be heavy on the spoilers. I'm going to be telling you exactly what I think about, plot things as well. So yeah, I'm not going to be holding back. So I'm assuming I'm going to have a lot of opinions. Yeah, if you haven't read these books and you want to, probably save this for when you have read them. Or, if you don't mind about spoilers, that's fine. But this is your spoiler warning officially. So the first Colleen Hoover book that I read was November 9. Now, this is the story of Ben and Fallon. Ben is an aspiring novelist, and the two meet the day before Fallon is set to move across country to New York. They spend Fallon's last day in LA together, and they have such a great time and bond so well that they sort of agree to meet every November 9th back in the same place, sort of check in with each other. And she sort of becomes Ben's muse as he sees her life as just having a lot of, and their relationship and the whole concept of their meeting to be great creative fodder, and he's going to write a book about it. She was caught in a fire a couple of years earlier, and she has a lot of scars physically and psychologically. And it's also caused her relationship with her father to be quite strained because she blames him. She was in the house and he didn't remember that she had told him that she was going to be staying with him. So yeah, Ben and Fallon agree to meet every November 9th. They agree not to sort of romantically wait for each other to get involved with other people. You literally just see them on the November 9th every year during the book, and you sort of get to see their various relationships and changes in their lives and careers, and the bond that they have sort of deepens and gets very romantic, and how it evolves. And of course, the progress of Ben's novel, you sort of get to see that at the end. Fallon essentially finds out something that makes her question everything she thought she knew about herself and Ben. And in terms of writing, I would say this book is about average. It's not bad writing, dear God. I know I've read worse, but it's not amazing either. I wasn't wild about the way that the flashbacks were used to sort of, I don't think they were written very well. I felt pulled out of things. I know they were supposed to be there to give us more information. I just felt a little weird about it. Yeah, on the whole, average. I enjoyed the character of Fallon very much. She grew up with a famous actor as a father, and she wants to pursue her own career in acting, in theatre, and she is leaving to do that in New York. And I liked her arc in terms of her move towards becoming self-confident, and I think that was very well written. Okay, as I am discussing this book, I would like to make a comparison to a film. I would say I've had numerous discussions about, with different friends about You've Got Mail, the Tom Hanks, Meg Ryan rom-com from the 90s. And this is relevant, I promise. Spoilers for the film, by the way. In essence, these two characters are sort of chatting over the internet, and then they meet in person, but they don't know that it's them. Tom Hanks spends a lot of the movie being really quite mean to Meg Ryan, and in a sort of Darcy-esque or Mr. Rochester-esque way, depending on how you view it and how you feel about those characters. He finds out about an hour into the film, of course, that, it's her. He proceeds to put her out of business. She runs a little, a bookshop that was her mother's. And his family runs this big book chain, and she's forced to close the bookshop that her mother used to run, and she has this emotional attachment to. Like November 9th, You've Got Mail is a sort of ends justifies the means kind of plot. Kathleen, aka Meg Ryan, sort of ends up being a writer and getting a book deal, pursuing a career that she wanted for herself, but she never thought she could because she had the shop to run, and, it was, her mother's shop, and she didn't want to say goodbye to it. And she gets to be with the guy that she wanted to be with at the start of the film and has been, been talking to this whole time. Me personally, I love You've Got Mail because I have quite an emotional attachment to it, much like Kathleen does to her shop. Apart from Lord of the Rings, it's probably the film that I've rewatched the most since childhood. So while I'm wary about, him running out, her out of business and then they still get together, I think it works for this particular plot because she was never going to leave the shop without a push. In, about half an hour into the movie, I think she even says, about her life, do I do it because I like it or because I haven't been brave? And, this is Meg Ryan's film. He gets the top billing, but this is Meg Ryan's film. This is Kathleen Kelly's arc. And, Tom Hanks is just so charming that it kind of works. Whereas November 9 is completely different because it is so much worse. Because it turns out that Ben was the one who caused the fire. He started the fire that left Fallon so scarred in every way. And he deliberately sought out Fallon, made her fall in love with him, and just toyed with her and ended up getting involved with his sister-in-law at one point and becoming this surrogate dad to his nephew. It's really weird. It's just so beyond anything that any normal person would forgive. Forget about all the good memories because they're all based on lies. And just all that struggle that Fallon had to go through to recover physically and mentally. She had to build her confidence back up after it was completely destroyed. And Ben was the one who destroyed it. They can't get together in the end. I refuse to accept that. It made me so angry. Really, 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 really angry. And it wasn't even for a reason because he did it because he thought his mother had killed himself because her father had dumped him. But it just turns out his mother had cancer and wanted to, save her young children the pain of having to look after her and see her die. So it wasn't even for any reason. He did it to punish Fallon's father and he didn't do anything. And he gets sort of no real comeuppance from any of this. It was just oh no, I don't understand how you could be okay with them getting together after all of that. It's just, I was thinking, it's going to be, a tragic story and Fallon will, find out, but then she'll move on and they'll meet on the last November 9th and, they'll just, she'll decide she forgives him and they'll go their separate ways and, all of that stuff. And they'll never see each other again or, they'll see each other and ignore each other. That would have been an ending I could get behind, but her forgiving him after all of that, no. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love the whole idea that, she reads the novel and her mother reads the novel and, we see that in Jane Austen, Persuasion, Pride and Prejudice, a well-written letter, well-constructed bit of literature. But no, not in this case. This is just too far. So in terms of whether I enjoyed this book or not, I didn't hate the writing and the whole meeting. That concept of the meeting once a year was a good one. But dear God, did I hate the ending and the whole big reveal and plot twist. And I really didn't like Ben as a character. Apart from the fact that he was supposed to be really charming and flirtatious and stuff, every other aspect of his personality was just no. I wish I could have rewritten this book because I feel like it had potential, but 3 stars in the end I gave it. This definitely, it would have been higher if things were different. On to the next, I guess. This hasn't been a great start to my journey, but hopefully things will get better. We never know. Hey. So, next, I read It Ends With Us. Now, I will never pick up a book without reading trigger warnings ever again. I do not want to read a book like this ever again. I mean, trigger warnings massively for domestic abuse. Big trigger warnings. Do not read this book if it's going to trigger you because not only is the subject matter quite sensitive, but I don't think this book is written very well at all. And I think it would probably hurt more than it would help. Our central couple meet on a rooftop. Lily has just been to her father's funeral and Ryle, very aptly named, sort of sees her just sitting on the edge. She's not gonna jump, but he thinks she's gonna jump, and so there's all that. He is a neurosurgeon and he has just lost a patient that was in surgery with him. I figured this guy was gonna have no personality when within their first conversation he's just I want to fuck you. Literally. He keeps saying it. He seemingly has no personality trait other than extreme horniness. That and being a doctor, when she finds out he's a neurosurgeon, that's it. She's got a scrubs fetish and it shows. You know, within that first conversation of, you know, them being together for the first 5 minutes, that he does not want a relationship. Lily does not want to enter into anything casual because, you know, she knows what she wants and she wants a relationship. So they decide not to keep in touch. And months later, they meet again. And then again, just coincidentally, her name is Lily Bloom, Lily Blossom Bloom. And her dream is to open a flower shop. Each time they meet, Ryle is just saying that he wants to sleep with Lily. Like that's literally it. The first, I would say, third of the novel is them trying not to sleep with each other, which that's literally it. Like that is the only tension within the first third of this. And personally, I think that is not enough to sustain a plot of a romance novel in any way. They seem to have no connection other than a physical one. Literally at one point, he shows up at her house and begs to sleep with her. She says, I don't want to sleep with you. And he locks her inside her bedroom, like undresses her. And it's like, okay, we're just going to like sleep next to each other then. Look, I have to say, I did enjoy Lily's personal storyline of opening her flower shop and, you know, what her flower shop is going to be and how they're going to present themselves. I thought that was great. And like that is one of the ways that Ryle and Lily meet again in those first few meetings, because the woman that randomly walks into Lily's flower shop and is like, I'm rich, I'll help you. You can just pay me a little bit. I would just like to have some work to do. And it's just immediately amazing and is basically her partner and helps her with everything. Turns out to be Ryle's sister. So that's another reason how they get sort of brought back together, which I just knew was going to happen. It was just so bloody obvious. While all of this is going on, Lily is sort of going back and reading her teenage diaries, which she used to address her diaries as if she was writing to Ellen DeGeneres, which is just a time capsule moment. She's sort of going back and reliving her parents' abusive relationship at the same time and her sort of friendship and relationship that develops with this guy. He is 18 years old and she is 15 years old, and his name is Atlas. And if you've seen Atlas Corrigan appreciation bookstagram reels, or TikToks, it is this book. It is that guy. And yeah, I mean, it's at least better written because you get to see the development of them meeting and them forming a friendship and then it becoming romantic and sexual and stuff. There's progression there. They bond over things. They have shared interests. You see that. This book infuriates me. I have to say, a big deal is made about the fact that they don't sleep together until she is 16, which is the age of consent in whatever state that they were living in at the time. I can't remember, which is just, I mean, do you want a medal for that? Anyway, she's sort of seeing Ryle at this point in the narrative, and she goes to lunch with her mum and, you know, her friend, Ryle's sister, and she meets Atlas again. He is a waiter at the restaurant, and they sort of meet and they have a conversation, and you know, it turns out Lily thinks that Atlas is in a relationship, and yeah, she's kind of heartbroken about it a little bit, and there's clearly some kind of bond. There's clearly feelings there on both sides. You can see where this is going. All of a sudden, neurosurgeon Ryle, he gets a personality and he pushes Lily, to which she immediately kind of freaks out and is like, I can see where this is going to go. But she does not listen to that feeling in her own gut. Anyway, yeah. Lily is cooking and they've both had a little bit to drink at this point, and he tries to take the pan out of the oven and burns himself, and she laughs out of shock, as you do. And he gets angry and pushes her because, you know, he's a neurosurgeon, he uses his hands, it's not funny, and all of that. thing. But after having the whole crisis and going through this whole relationship in her head, she then decides to give him another go anyway, which, forgive me, but at this point, I do not understand how there are enough feelings there other than lust for her to be like, I'm going to give this man a shot who has just shown himself to be capable of potentially being violent towards me. They're just horny for each other. That's it. The way that this book is written, so much is like not there. We're not witnessing any, I just can't. They're not even in a relationship at this point, I don't think. They're still like really, they intense, but they're not in a relationship, I don't think. Forgive me if I'm wrong, because out of sheer anger, I feel like I have forgotten so much of this book. I had to take a break before filming this to, gather myself, because every time I talk about this, I just get so angry. Yeah, this incident is actually what gets them to say I love you for the first time to each other, which is just, this book was never going to be about a healthy relationship. But the next day they end up back at Atlas's restaurant and he's there again and he sees the bruises and he gets into a physical altercation with Ryle, and then you sort of find out that Atlas owns the restaurant. He's not just the waiter, and he was just sort of helping out doing the waiting. And then there's that sort of, Lily goes, she has a sort of moment where she, anyway, that none of these people are likeable characters. Atlas is the only likeable character in this entire novel, I would say. And even then, he was an 18-year-old preying on a 15-year-old in his past. Then she fucking marries him. Lily marries Ryle. And at this point, I'm thinking, I wanted to bail at this point because I knew exactly what was going to happen. The path was all laid out. It was obvious. I predicted every single thing that happened at this point. And I hated it, and I hated that I had to finish it, but I wanted to finish it. They had not built up a strong enough bond to get married. Nothing in their interactions showed that. There is no way that all the questions that she already has in her mind about Ryle, the fact that their relationship seems to only be based on sex and horniness, and, there's no way that Atlas not being available and having a girlfriend, like, that is what is like, okay, well, I'm going to go for second best and I'm going to marry Ryle. That seems to be it. Obviously, it gets worse. The incidences, there are more of them. And you find out that he's like this because when he was younger, he had a brother that he shot and killed with a gun. And that just, again, made no sense to me because, surely if he got into rages, ended up shooting his brother, that would make sense. But to develop an anger and rage complex from accidentally shooting your brother, I'm not going to profess to understand trauma like that. But, logically to me, that doesn't make sense. I'm sure people who know better than me can tell me whether that is, something that could happen or not. It could be the case that is what happened and he was deliberately not being honest with her. Because obviously this whole novel's from Lily's point of view. We wouldn't know if he was lying. But yeah, that's just another thing that pisses me off. I thankfully have no experience with these kinds of relationships. Of course, Lily gets pregnant and of course she has to, the whole period of, she had already left him at this point and then she finds out that she's pregnant. And we have to sit through her point of view, throughout her pregnancy while she's umming and ahhing about whether or not she's going to be with him anymore or how far he's going to have any input into whatever. She's like, I'm not going to make any decisions about my marriage while I've got hormones going inside me. And I'm like, that was a waste of time. It's inevitable. It just seems like writing for this. I don't know what that section was. I understand that domestic violence is supposed to make you act like you're supposed to be angry on behalf of the victim. I get that. That is not what I'm upset about. I'm upset about it being badly written. Hey, this is editing me just popping in to try and help past me explain this because I feel like I'm not explaining it very well. It felt like the only hurdle that Lily had to overcome was sort of overcoming her love for him and realising that she was unsafe and getting out of there. And for me, the tension required in that plot was the fact that she loved him so much and I didn't feel that love. So it all just felt very bizarre as a plot to me. Like there was no tension in other ways, such as she was not financially beholden to him because she had her own apartment, her business was her own. She had family members that he hadn't cut her off from her family members. It just, the tension in this novel seemed to hinge on something that wasn't built up properly, in my opinion. I hope I explained that better. It makes a lot of sense when we find out that the inspiration for this book was the fact that Colleen Hoover's mother was in such a relationship. And that completely makes sense because the parts that we got of the novel of Lily and her diaries looking back on her parents' relationship, I thought that was quite well done, actually. And I appreciated that storyline. And I think had she focused on that, maybe made it a YA novel and just focused on past Lily, I think that would have been something that would have worked and I wouldn't have felt so strongly about this book as I do. I can't talk about this book anymore. It just infuriated me so much and this is going to be a nightmare for me to edit because I just keep going, oh my God, every 5 seconds. But yeah, I did not like It Ends With Us. And if I had a physical copy, I would burn it. So the last Colleen Hoover book that I read was Confess. And I didn't hate this one. I actually quite liked it. I know, I'm surprised as you are. I'm actually not going to go into too much depth with this one in case you actually want to read it. So the central characters in this novel are Auburn and Owen. His initials are OMG, which, yes, will come back later in a certain context. I liked Auburn as a character. You know, she has her own business, she has a hair salon, and you find out she has a son from a relationship she had as a teen, and the father sadly died. The first chapter you get is them saying goodbye, and it's very sad. And you know from the off that she has a strained relationship with her child's grandmother. At the start of her novel, her motivation is sort of being in her son's life as much as possible because she essentially made a really rash decision to sign over custody of her son to his grandmother. So she's working within somebody else's parameters and she is just trying to do her best. And her arc is sort of, you know, losing her fear of this woman and standing up for her own rights with her son. I enjoyed reading this immensely. I really, like I said, I liked Auburn as a character. And I have to say that Owen is the first love interest that I actually liked. And ironically, the only one who goes to jail out of the three of them when he should be the one who didn't go to jail. Owen is... made it over the low bar, did Owen. But he's an artist and his whole thing is really quite unique in the sense that he has this confessions box outside his studio and he makes paintings out of people's confessions. And then he has these, maybe once a month or once every few months, he has an exhibition. And mostly it's people who come back to look for their confessions and buy sort of their own paintings, essentially. It's, you know, very creative. I really enjoyed him as an artist. He has a great backstory. You find out that his relationship with his father is quite complicated because he, you know, they were all in an accident and his mother and sister, unfortunately, are no longer with them. So these two meet and, you know, there are sparks. But unfortunately, Auburn's, well, I don't want to say brother-in-law, but, you know, the uncle of her son is a really, really bad guy. And he knows Owen and, you know, there's conflict there between him and Owen and between Auburn and, well, his name is Trey, which is strange to me for a name, but, you know, we'll go with it. And so there's, you know, tension between him and Auburn and him and Owen. And yeah, he tries to integrate himself more into her life. And yeah, you genuinely are torn because any relationship between Auburn and Owen, it threatens her ability to have a relationship with her son and to see her son. So yeah, I got literary PTSD from November 9 when I sort of found out that, Trey and Owen knew each other, but actually, and the fact that Owen knows Auburn, that happened was really quite sweet. His father was in the hospital room next to Adam, who is, her ex-boyfriend who died sadly, and so that's how he met Trey, and that's how he also met Adam and knew, saw Auburn. I actually liked this. I'm shocked. Yeah, he saw the events that happened in the first chapter, and at the end of the novel you sort of experience that from his perspective and what happens after that when he's that he's involved with. What I enjoyed was that things didn't feel inevitable with this novel. I genuinely, I didn't know what was going to happen next, and that was great. I actually wanted Owen and Auburn to get together. It's cute. They have the same middle name, so it's sort of like destiny. I mean, that part was a bit cheesy, but it is quite a heartwarming story. And normally, this is a thing that I'm getting from Colleen Hoover, is that her protagonists often know each other for such a short amount of time and decide that they're soulmates. So normally it comes across as cheesy, but this one was all right. I liked their separate storylines as well as their romance. And, the cynic versus the romantic in me fought it out while reading this. And I think the romantic side won. I know. What is this? I didn't hate a Colleen Hoover novel. OMG. So in conclusion, I don't think Colleen Hoover is for me. I liked one of the 3 books I picked up, but honestly, I wouldn't want to read any more because I heard that Confess is the least like the rest of her novels, and so if that's the only one I like, I'm probably not going to get on with any of the rest of them. I am worried about the number of non-consensual sexual encounters that she has written in her novels, especially because they're quite steamy, they're quite descriptive scenes, so it gets incredibly uncomfortable to have to experience them as a reader. And I know that's the point, but these are romance novels at the end of the day. You want surely the outstanding sex scenes should be the romantic ones with the person that you're supposed to be rooting for. And that's a thing that I was mentioning earlier, is that all of her couples so far seem to have decided that they're soulmates after spending such a little time together. It was just getting repetitive and boring to experience them one after the other, the same kind of thing. It really made that stand out, and not really for me. Shout out to my friend Hannah who gave me the idea for this. I think I always would have been curious if I hadn't read any, and I'm glad I dipped my toe. I tried a variety. It's not really for me, and I now do not have to have FOMO anymore when people talk about Colleen Hoover. Thank you for watching. Let me know if you like Colleen Hoover, if you felt the same as me about these books, or if you felt differently. I would be excited to know your opinion because, everyone has different ones. I hope you enjoyed my descent into madness. And out again. If you like this, do give it a thumbs up, and I make videos all about books, history, personality, etc. So do check those out and subscribe if you want to. Happy reading.